This is a little story about four guys named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was an important job to do, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got mad because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought that anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. So it ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. There you go. Okay. So where did I get that from? That was a sign on a wall at an office that I used to work at, like back in the 80s. Remember, they used to have office signs. Maybe they still do. But before there was like internet memes and stuff like that, there were like these little signs that people used to put up at the water cooler. The water cooler, yeah. So that was a famous water cooler sign. Okay. The job with the four guys. Okay, so why are we talking about this? We're talking about this because we're talking about a job that seemingly somebody was told to do, but maybe it's possible everybody could do, but it's also possible that nobody's going to do it, and that's why we're going to talk about it. Because really anybody should do it. That's really the whole class. The job is, you know this week's Parsha? What? Behaalosecha. So the job is Behaalosecha es haneros. That's a job that was specifically spoken to Aaron HaKohen. Hashem tells Aaron, the brother of Moshe, who's the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, Behaalosecha es haneros, when you lift up the candles. And there's reasons why the Torah uses the word lift up as opposed to kindle or to light. And that's a subject for another class someday. But what is very interesting, this is what I want to focus on today, is that in the Gemara, in Yuma Chav Daled Beis, and then it's also brought as halacha in the Rambam Mishnah Torah Hilchos Bias Hamikdash, Perek Tes, chapter 9, in halachas Hey and Zayin. It says that even a non-kohen is allowed to light the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash. Surprising. Let's give a little background. I mean, we're familiar with the Hanukkah menorah because that's that's part of our day-to-day, or at least year-to-year Judaism. But the Hanukkah menorah is based on the original menorah, which was a candelabrum in the Holy Temple. It was one of the main holy articles which was used on a daily basis. It was a 7-branched candelabrum which would be lit every single day, and lighting the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash is one of the 613 commandments. It's an eternal commandment. We're not able to do that commandment because we don't have the Beis Hamikdash right now, along with many, many, many other commandments which we cannot yet do again until Mashiach comes and we have the third Beis Hamikdash. But at any rate, the lighting of the menorah on a daily basis is one of the eternal 613 commandments. And the interesting thing about it is that the Gemara, as well as the Rambam, who codifies this for us in halacha, obviously, the Rambam is the posek when it comes to things like this. Shulchan Aruch talks about things that we do even in today's day and age, but it doesn't talk about things that ceased when the temple was destroyed. So for those things we look in the Rambam, because the Rambam deals with everything that ever was kept and ever will be kept. And so over there the Rambam says that surprisingly, and I hope that it is surprising to everybody. If it's not surprising, then I need to explain myself a little bit better. Surprisingly, although it is an initial preference that a kohen should light the menorah, really, technically, it could be lit by any Jew. That is surprising to everyone. You understand? Like, for instance, karbonos, the animal offerings, right? everyone could bring one as an offering, but then the actual service, the implementation of it, would be handed over to a kohen. I mean, that's what a kohen actually means. The name kohen means to serve. These were the people who were appointed. They were the descendants of Aaron a kohen, and that was their job, to handle all that stuff in the Beis HaMikdash. So it's very surprising that lighting the menorah would be something that would be could be done by any Jew. Furthermore, just to magnify the question, the location of the menorah. You know where the menorah was located? It was located in the area called the Kodesh. I'm sure you're familiar with the Kodesh HaGadoshim, the Holy of Holies, and that's a place where even the Kohanim did not enter. Only the Kohen Gadol entered, and even the Kohen Gadol only entered Achas B'Shana once a year on Yom Kippur. That was the Holy of Holies, and that's where the Aron, the ark with the tablets of the covenant, was located. But then in front of the Holy of Holies, there was the holy chamber. In the holy chamber, you had the menorah, right, the candelabrum. You had the table with the loaves, and you had the golden altar, smaller altar, which was just used for incense. So, and then more external to that, or exterior to that, was the courtyard where you had the large altar, which is also known as the copper altar, where the animal sacrifices were performed. A non-kohen couldn't even go to that part of the courtyard with the altar, let alone go into the holy, where the menorah was located. So it's a little bit interesting. Technically, a non-kohen, any Jew, can light the menorah, but you can't even go to where the menorah is located. So then the whole question becomes, well, how would it actually occur? So there's different explanations. They could bring the menorah out and light it out there and then bring it back. Or another explanation, with a long pole. You could have a long stick with a shamash at the end of it, and you reach it into there. But at any rate, the point is, a halacha is a halacha, and it's a very interesting halacha that any Jew can light the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash. A surprising halacha, interesting halacha, counterintuitive, and I guess that's what I want to talk about today. What can we learn from this surprising truth? You know, every law in Torah is not just a technicality, chas v'shalom. It reflects a higher spiritual truth. So, and the depths of those truths are endless, but a little bit of unpacking we can do. So the question is, what can we learn, at least even in some small way, to inspire our service of Hashem from this strange technicality? Okay, so everyone understands the basic, the question, and the menorah, and the kohen, and the non-kohen, and all that stuff. Okay, fine. All right, good. So I'm going to tell you a story. The story is about a Jewish businessman from Manchester named Max Cohn. And in 1991, Max was supposed to go to Bangladesh on business. And there was a huge cyclone, and it killed, I think, 100,000 people, maybe more than that. So it was horrific. And so needless to say, he was a little bit hesitant to go to Bangladesh in the middle of this crisis. And then he heard that they were predicting another cyclone may hit, so he says, I'm canceling. But then he called one of his contacts in Bangladesh, and the contact in Bangladesh told him, no, you should definitely come. It's going to be fine. It's not going to affect you. Yeah, it was a big thing, but it won't affect you. You should come, and we'll do the business deal. So he was really not comfortable with it. So this Max decides, you know what? Something like this, the only way I'm going to have confidence to go is if I get a bracha from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So he started calling Mazkiras, the Rebbe's secretariat, trying to get through to see if he could ask for a bracha. And he wasn't getting through. So he decides, you know what, I'm going to start the trip, and I'll keep calling. There were no cell phones. This is 91. So maybe, there were, but very, very rare. So I remember I had like a car phone once. I had a whole story. It was like a shoebox, and you plug it into the cigarette lighter. Okay, Even that was like 95, I think. Okay, and at any rate, so I'm sure this story involved payphones. I'm absolutely positive of it, because remember, he started in Manchester. He went to Heathrow, London Heathrow, because you can't fly directly to Bangladesh from Manchester. So he got to London Heathrow. At London Heathrow, he called his in-laws, and I'm sure it was from a payphone. Or unless he was in the lounge and they had like a special courtesy phone or something. At any rate, from London, he calls his in-laws. He's like, listen, I still haven't gotten a bracha from the Rebbe. I'm really nervous to go to Bangladesh. And they say, no, you did get a bracha from the Rebbe. And they're like, whoa, what are you talking about? So it was a Sunday. And I guess it was already like Sunday afternoon in England, but at that point, maybe even Sunday evening. But Sunday morning, the Rebbe used to have the dollar line. So people would line up, anyone who wanted to line up and get a bracha. So Max's in-law's son, meaning Max's brother-in-law, was a bacher in 770. He was a yeshiva student named David. David went for dollars that morning, and when he got to the Rebbe, he said, my brother-in-law Max is in Manchester, and he has a business deal in Bangladesh. And he's nervous to go because of, there was a natural disaster over there. So the Rebbe gave David $1 and said, it should be for the good. Tell your brother-in-law to give this $1 to the person in Bangladesh who is involved with Chabad activities. So this is what David tells his parents, Max's in-laws. They tell Max, and he's like, that's it. I got my bracha. Not only I have a bracha, I have a shlichus, because now I have to give the $1. Now, he didn't have the physical $1 on him, obviously, but he would later get it. But he understood he was given a mission. He has to go find now the person in Bangladesh involved in Chabad activities. And now, there's no shliach in Bangladesh. There wasn't then, there isn't now. But somebody who's like doing the job of the shliach in Bangladesh, who's involved in Chabad activities in Bangladesh, and I have to give this guy $1. And that's great, because now I'm a shliach mitzvah, and I have an extra protection and an extra purpose for being there. It's not just business. Beautiful. So now he is absolutely uplifted, and his anxiety completely vanished, and he gets on the plane. He goes to Bangladesh. Okay, so he gets to Bangladesh. Obviously, he's there for business, but his main thing is he's earnestly seeking out who is this person who's doing Chabad activities in Bangladesh. So there were very, very few Jews, and the few Jews that were in Bangladesh, he basically kind of already knew, because that was the kind of guy Max was. He was like, if there were Jews around, he would know about them. So he was asking every Jew he knew, like, who's the Chabad guy here in Bangladesh? And I don't know who's the Chabad guy. And so he was looking around for Jews that he hadn't met, and it was very few and far between, very difficult, and nothing was happening. So on his very last night in Bangladesh, he's at the hotel, and he gets on the elevator, and he sees a guy. When you see someone, you just know they're Jewish. You just a Yiddish upon them. He sees the guy. This is a Jewish guy. So Max says to the guy, he says, "You're Jewish, right?" And the guy says, "Yeah, I'm Jewish." He's like, "Okay, listen, I'm sorry for bothering you, stranger, but I have to ask you something. Do you know who the Lubavitcher Rebbe is?" He's like, "Yeah, of course I know the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I'm very close with his shliach in North Carolina with Rabbi Yossi Groner in North Carolina." So, and he introduces himself. He says, "My name's Walter." The real guy, Walter Yaris. So Max Cohn meets Walter Yaris, and he says, "Okay, so you know the Rebbe is, the Rebbe's shliach in North Carolina. Like, what do you do in Bangladesh?" He's like, "Well, I come here on business, but while I'm on business here, I try to, do what the shliach in North Carolina did for us. I try to do for people here. I look for Jews. I try to service them. I try to get them Jewish resources, whatever it is that they need." So Max is hearing this, and he's like, "Okay, you're the guy. You're the guy. The Rebbe said, I have something for you. Okay, I don't have it. I have to get it. My brother-in-law David has it in New York, but I have $1 from the Rebbe for you because the Rebbe said I'm supposed to find the guy who's doing Chabad activities in Bangladesh. You're clearly the guy. That's you. So Walter's very touched by this, and meanwhile Max is still trying to clarify though because this guy doesn't look like a chassid. He's certainly not an official shliach. So he wanted to clarify. He called up Yossi Groner. He's like, this is Max Cohn from Manchester. Do you know Walter Yaris? And Rabbi Groner says, yeah, I know Walter, of course. Where did you meet him? He says, I met him in Bangladesh. He says, oh, Yossi Groner says, Walter really is the one doing the Rebbe's work in Bangladesh. He's like, then that seals the deal. Okay, I'm telling you, the Rebbe sent me with $1 for Walter. And Max asks Rabbi Groner, can I ask you something though? Like, did the Rebbe officially tell Walter to do this? Like, does he have any official title or any type of was he sent to do this? And Yossi Groner says, no. I mean, he's certainly not an official shliach there. So Max says, does the Rebbe even know that he's there? And did you ever tell the Rebbe about him? So Yossi had to think. He thought, and he says, you know what? Many years ago, I was writing a duch, a din v'cheshbon, a report. And in the duch, I mentioned that I have a balabas, I have a guy here in North Carolina who travels often to Bangladesh, and that when he goes there, he tries to help Jews there, serving them with Jewish resources. So yeah, how does the Rebbe know? I mentioned it once in a couple of lines in a long letter years ago. And he's like, okay, well, that's it. Then that's how the Rebbe knows about it. Anyways. And by the way, this whole story is in the My Encounter, the GEM interviews, the My Encounter interviews, and it's very nice, so you could check it out. But anyways, that's the story. Why am I sharing this story? So here, let me tell you first of all why I'm not sharing the story. I'm not sharing the story that you should be impressed that Rebbe remembered something from a letter from years ago that was 2 lines. And the reason I'm not sharing that is because, the reason that's not the reason I'm sharing it is because there's nothing I can do with that piece of information other than be wowed by it. And I guess sometimes it's nice to be wowed when you read about people who are beyond what we think the human experience is capable of. So I guess that's inspiring, but it's not instructive because for one very simple reason, I cannot replicate that. I definitely cannot replicate that. So why am I sharing the story with you? Because there is a lesson here that I think that we can replicate and that we can learn from and use as a model. And it's a very simple lesson. Simple lesson, and again, it is certainly inspiring. The Rebbe's memory and the Rebbe's care and the Rebbe's attention to every individual. All that stuff is inspiring, but that's not my purpose for telling you the story. My purpose for telling you the story is much more simple. If you're in business and you have to go to Bangladesh, what's the obvious thing? The obvious thing is, if there are Jews, if b'hashgacha pratis, divine providence arranges that you're going to meet Jews while you're in business in this faraway country, so the obvious thing is, you should help these Jews. What are you there for? You're there to help them. Now, did anybody ask you to? What do you mean, did anyone ask you to? Who has to ask you to? Well, am I the official emissary? Is it my job? What do you mean? It's everybody's job. Everybody had a job that anybody could have done. Somebody thought that anybody could have done it. Nobody did it, right? Then everybody was mad. This is the meaning of the menorah being lit even by a non-kohen. This is the meaning. What does it mean to light the menorah? It means to inspire Jews. For various reasons. First of all, because Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam. that the candle of God is the soul of man, which means that inspiring a Jew, getting their soul to ignite, is like lighting a candle. So that's lighting the menorah is like inspiring a Jew, or the other way around. Inspiring a Jew is like lighting a menorah. Furthermore, the menorah has 7 branches. 7 branches represent the 7 emotional attributes, like we had in Sfira before Shavuos. Between Pesach and Shavuos, we had 7 weeks because there's 7 major emotional facets. So the menorah has 7 branches. It represents the fact that there are 7 different styles of personality, 7 personality types, and obviously there are offshoots and derivatives of that as well. But the 7 branches represent, different strokes for different folks. You have different kinds of people, and yet all 7 branches are from one single beaten piece of gold. You know how the menorah was fashioned? It wasn't soldered together from different parts. It was one hunk of gold that was beaten into that shape. And that shows that even when there are 7 branches, meaning different styles and personalities of Jews, we're really from one entity. We are one entity. And that's the idea of the Jews, even though there's diversity among Jews and different personality types, but really we're just one entity, one being, completely united. And so the idea of lighting the menorah really is the idea of going around and meeting different kinds of Jews and serving them Jewishly, serving them, by inspiring them, sharing with them a good word, a word of Torah, helping them with to find Jewish resources, especially if they're in an unfamiliar place, or even if they're at home but they don't, know how to procure their own resources. A lot of people, unfortunately, they don't know how to get what they need in order to observe Torah on a daily basis. And so when you see an opportunity like that, whether you're in Bangladesh or you're at the corner store, the point is that it was divine providence that you should meet this Jew, and they need their soul to be kindled. And you could look around and say, well, whose job is it? I'm not the outreach worker. I'm not the rabbi. I'm not some holy person. I'm just a regular guy. I'm just a regular gal. I'm just, who am I? Let this be the job for people who specialize in that. And the answer is no. That's absolutely erroneous thinking. Anybody can light the menorah, and therefore should. And when you meet a Jew, that by divine providence it was orchestrated that you meet them, and you're aware that there's something you can do for them to inspire them and to make it easier for them to observe Yiddishkeit. So don't look around and say, oh, where's a kohen? Can we get a kohen over here to light this menorah? No. Go ahead, you do it. Now, at the same time, I want to share with you a little bit of a complexity within the halacha. And this is interesting. It says anybody can light the menorah, but only a kohen can prepare the wicks and the oils. Very interesting. Only you have to set up the wicks and the oils in the menorah cups, and then you light them. So the Gemara says, and the Rambam Paskins as well, that anyone can light it, but only a kohen can prepare, meaning to fill the cups with oil and to put the wicks in the oil. So what does that mean? What is that talking about? Anybody can light it, but only the kohen can set it up. Only the kohen can put out the wicks and the oils. So here's another dimension within the analogy. Anybody can and therefore must be an agent, an emissary to ignite the soul of another Jew. However, only a kohen, only a professional, only somebody who specializes in it can set up the oils and the wicks. And that means to figure out what methods are useful in inspiring Jews. That's where we have to know our place. So if I'm sitting around and I'm trying to think to myself, well, what's going to inspire Jews? What could I do? What could raise Jewish awareness? And I start just brainstorming ideas. I don't want to say any examples because I don't want to condemn anyone, and especially I don't like to throw cold water when people are trying to do good. But you see all the time that well-meaning individuals try to come up with ideas that they think will inspire others, and maybe it will even get people excited, but they're not fully cognizant of undesirable side effects or of the image that it projects. And so for knowing how to inspire Jews, for that we leave it to the specialist. The kohen has to come in and set up the oil and the wicks, and then any of us can and must come in and light it. And let me get very specific what I mean. Before the 6-Day War, it was right around this time of year. So they knew that things were becoming dangerous months before. And so Lag Baimer, which was about 6 weeks before the war broke out, the Rebbe publicly spoke about Mivtza Tefillin, campaign for Tefillin awareness and for observance of Tefillin, that we should go around and get every Jewish man and boy above Bar Mitzvah to put on Tefillin every day other than Shabbos and Yom Tov, and that this would increase the safety and security of Jews in the Holy Land and all over the whole world. Okay, now when the Rebbe came out with that initiative, obviously that was radical, and it got plenty of pushback. I wasn't around in 67, but I remember as a bacher when I was doing, even then you had people who were skeptical of it and judgmental, and okay, now it's much more of a commonplace thing and more accepted, but you see how much was accomplished with the Tefillin campaign, how many people were brought back to Yiddishkeit and given Jewish pride and Jewish awareness because of it. And that's just what we see. Then there's so much that we don't see, the spiritual effects that the Rebbe spoke about. At any rate, the point is, for anyone else to get up and say, this is the method, this is what we're going to do, that's above my pay grade. I'm not going to go there. I don't know what campaign, what initiative, what programs we need to launch to save Klal Yisrael. Not my job. But once a kohen has set up the oil and the wick and said, here's what we're going to do, here's the campaign, now I'm not allowed to say, well, this is a specialization, it's not me, let somebody, let a kohen, let an outreach worker, let a rabbi come. No. Any Jew can and must step up and light the flames, inspire a Jew. You meet a Jew, inspire a Jew. So I just want to mention that we have a series of classes. We do them on a monthly basis. And all of the archives are on soulwords.org, where we go through the Mivtzoyim, the Rebbe's mitzvah campaigns. And I think we've done 8, maybe, of them so far. We started in Elul just before the new year, just before Tavshin Pei Aleph, and they're all on Soul Words. What was the last one we did? I think we did Mivtza Torah. We did the campaign for Torah study, and we've done Mezuzah. I think Mezuzah was our first one. And we did Bayis Mali Sfarim, the campaign to have a home full of Jewish books. And we did, what else? Who was at any of those classes? We did the Mivtza Avos Yisrael, Love Your Fellow Jew. And we did getting a letter in a Sefer Torah. We did that one. We've done a number of them. Oh, we did Mikvah, Taras HaMishpacha. We haven't done Tefillin yet. I think Tefillin is the next one that we're doing. And then we're going to do the Mashiach campaign. I think is the last one we're doing, because that's like the coup de grace. That's like the ultimate, the Mashiach campaign. But at any rate, the point is there are methods that have been provided for us. The oils and the wicks are already there, ready to be lit. So nobody has to sit and rack your brain and figure out, I wish I knew what inspires Jews, what gets Jews to identify Jewishly and start returning to Jewish practice. You don't have to figure that out. That's been figured out for us. The oils and the wicks are all set up. The hard part is to have the guts to be the one who does it. And yeah, it takes a little bit of Humility. It takes real humility to overcome your self-awareness. I got to say, like, if you ever want to overcome self-consciousness or shyness or any of that stuff, you should just go be a Lubavitcher teenager, and you'll be forced. They don't care. They don't ask you, like, what's your personality? Oh, you're shy? Okay, don't worry about it. You don't have to do this. No. you will be forced to get over your shyness, and it's such great. I mean, this is not the purpose of it, but it's a great side benefit. It's it's really great for causing you, to get over yourself and to realize, it's not about me. It's okay, like I don't have to be so fixated on my ego and my self-concept. There's something important to do. There's something holy to do, and I'm the one who can do it. You just do it. So yeah, definitely, ladies, I would strongly recommend you carry the tea lights in your purse and the Shabbos candle lighting times. And you know what it is. If someone throws you a bagel, you know that term? They throw you a bagel. Yeah, throwing you a bagel is like when somebody like hints to you heavily that they're Jewish in a very like unnatural way, like totally a non sequitur in the conversation. Like, how did this even come up? Like my wife has story after story about this, like from Craigslist. Whenever my wife buys something on Craigslist, we always like go there, and the person is always like, so yeah, I remember when I was in Hebrew school or whatever. They like to throw in little references. She has like a whole like Rolodex of our Craigslist Jews who come out of the woodwork, and it's called throwing a bagel, where they like give you a ridiculous non sequitur type hint that they're Jewish, and you got to catch the bagel, which means you open up your purse and you take out the tea lights, and even if they say no, I already have Shabbos candles, and maybe they do, that's fine, but you got to be ready. You got to, like the Boy Scouts, be prepared, and then don't forget there are people who are already observant, but we all need a little kidduv, 100%. And I don't say that humorously or, glibly. I don't care how frum somebody is. I don't care how solid you think they are in their Yiddishkeit. I promise you, they also need inspiration. They also need inspiration. I promise you. And you will never go wrong. You will never go wrong. I mean, if you do it in a busybody type of way, where you're like prying and you're like asking them, so, give me a report, tell me about your Avodas Hashem. I want to, go through a checklist. How, which mitzvahs did you do today? Did you say brachas? Then, yeah, you'll turn people off. But I'm saying, if you present yourself in a helpful way, in a compassionate way, and you're trying to help somebody to do their job as a Jew, I promise you, it doesn't turn anybody off, and it's very appreciated. So that's the bottom line. The bottom line is that we have to light the Menorah one candle at a time, one neshama at a time. And whose job is it? Everybody's. But you can't rely that somebody will do it, because really anybody can do it, and therefore everybody should do it. But if we all rely that somebody's going to do it, then nobody does it, or however that whole story goes. And at the same time, remember, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Baruch Hashem, we do not have to reinvent the wheel. The methods are all laid out for us. And that's it. Really, be emboldened, be empowered. Nobody had to tell Walter that here's your badge, here's your ID card. Walter knew that if you're in Bangladesh, then help Jews in Bangladesh.